All right, I'm Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingraham Angle from a very busy Washington tonight. The Russia collusion investigation meant to derail Trump's 2016 campaign was a complete and total sham. Now, today, Special Counsel John Durham's conclusions weren't that brutal, in a matter of fact, but his 306-page report was blunt and damning. Now, after reading through as much of the report as I could stomach tonight, I was disgusted, and I was so sickened all over again by what they did to Donald Trump, what they did to Carter Page and so many others along the way. Now, we see in black and white, in facts presented, what was obvious and pervasive corruption. Now, there was clear political bias at work. Durham calls it confirmation bias in the most powerful agencies within our federal government, intelligence and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Now, Hillary Clinton, we know she skated despite destroying evidence, but Donald Trump, he was tormented over nothing. And this began, never forget, when Obama was still in power. Now, here's a tidbit on the Steele dossier, which the FBI never corroborated. In footnote, I love the footnotes, 39. Our investigators uncovered little evidence suggesting that prior to the submission of the first Carter Page FISA application, the FBI had made any serious attempts to identify Steele's primary subsource, other than asking Steele to disclose the identities of his sources. Now, further on page 13, regarding the subsource, Igor Danchenko, Danchenko was unable to provide any corroborating evidence to support the Steele allegations, and further described his interactions with his subsources, this is my favorite, rumor and speculation. Moreover, notwithstanding the repeated assertions in the Carter Page FISA applications that Steele's primary subsource, this Danchenko, was based in Russia, Danchenko for many years had lived in Washington, D.C. But the FBI never corrected this assertion in 3 subsequent Page FISA renewal applications. Rather, beginning in March 2017, the FBI engaged Danchenko as a confidential human source and then began making regular financial payments to him for information, none of which corroborated Steele's reporting. Well, at least Danchenko had a job. Now, this was a rotten operation from the get-go. The speed and manner in which the FBI opened and investigated Crossfire Hurricane during the presidential election season based on raw, unanalyzed, and uncorroborated intelligence also reflected a noticeable departure from how it approached prior matters involving possible attempted foreign intelligence interference plans aimed at the Clinton campaign. You think?
I do think I could have and should have done a better job answering questions earlier. I really didn't perhaps appreciate the need to do that. What I had done was allowed. It was above board. It was totally above board. Everybody in the government I communicated with, and that was a lot of people, knew I was using a personal email.
Destroy those BlackBerries with hammers. Throughout this report, then FBI Director Andrew McCabe and Deputy Assistant Director for Counter Intel Peter Strzok came off as pursuing Trump with a blind zeal. In particular, at the direction of McCabe, Strzok opened Crossfire Hurricane immediately. Strzok, at a minimum, had pronounced hostile feelings toward Trump. The matter was opened as a full investigation without ever having spoken to the persons who provided the information. Now, after this conclusion by Durham, everybody watching tonight has to know that it is important to remember how Andrew McCabe described feeling right after Comey was fired. So sad. This was at his first meeting with President Trump.
I was speaking to the man who had just run for the presidency and won the election for the presidency, and who might have done so with the aid of the government of Russia, our most formidable adversary on the world stage. And that was something that troubled me greatly.
It troubled me greatly. Epitome of masculinity there. Now, completely absurd. Remember, he knows they never corroborated the dossier. Now, more from Durham. FBI records prepared by Strzok in February and March 2017 showed that at the time of the opening of Crossfire Hurricane, the FBI had no information in its holdings indicating that any time during the campaign, anyone in the Trump campaign had been in contact with any Russian intel officials. Now, despite the damning portrayal, Strzok, he's still spinning.
This is a predictable, sad ending to an investigation that never should have taken place. What we have here is John Durham, a U.S. attorney, taking a role traditionally reserved for criminal prosecutions and essentially writing a 4-year editorial for what he and Bill Barr thought that Donald Trump wanted to hear.
Oh, does that mean he just wants to turn the page? What a fraud. Now, this was rank abuse, abuse of office, and a vindictive, improper, politically motivated use of federal resources. Yet Durham's conclusion was only that the FBI failed to uphold their important mission of strict fidelity to the law. Yeah, it is outrageous that this happened. It is arguably worse than Watergate when you look at all the facts. But the truth is, no one's going to do anything about it. Now, how do we know this? Well, I'd say look no further than how the press is treating the Biden family money train. Now, this last week, right? Congressman Jim Comer put out all that documentation, all the bank records showing money from foreign sources to members of the Biden family. What did the media do? Yawn. Question. How did the Bidens get so rich? I'm going to ask it every night until the election. The press isn't interested in finding the answer to that very simple question, are they? Now, the standard going forward, after everything that's happened, it cannot be that the government can use its power to try to help liberal candidates for office avoid prosecution and accountability, as it relentlessly hounds conservatives on spurious and totally made-up grounds. All the while, of course, accusing the target of lying.
So another day of Hillary Clinton's emails and the Steele dossier. This while the President of the United States is lying about the FBI, attacking the FBI, and attacking the rule of law in this country. How does that make any sense at all?
The rule of law? That guy should have won the Emmy. Best Actress in a Dramatic Series. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to say actress.
FBI is an honest, apolitical organization. I hope people will stare at that and learn about what the FBI is like. Human and flawed, but deeply committed to trying to do the right thing.
Trying to do the right thing. What a prevaricating prig. That's not what Durham concluded, but the political class, terrified of a bold populist like Trump in office, they did everything they could to corroborate the FBI instead of act as a legislative check on it, a check on its overreach. One word, shiftless.
There is direct evidence in the emails from the Russians through their intermediary offering dirt on Hillary Clinton as part of what is described in writing as the Russian government effort to help elect Donald Trump. There is significant evidence, much of it in the public domain, on the issue of collusion.
And the intel community chiefs, with their own reputations at stake, they circled the wagons and kept the farcical, defamatory story going.
I will tell you that my dashboard warning light was clearly on, and I think that was the case with all of us in the intelligence community, very concerned about the nature of these approaches to the Russians. If you put that in context with everything else we knew the Russians were doing to interfere with the election.
His dashboard warning light was on because they were about to be discovered. Now, additionally, there were no nefarious approaches to the Russians by Trump's campaign. And number two, if the Russians were interfering in the election, the evidence suggests that they were trying to help Hillary via the phony Steele dossier. Powerful forces in Washington, powerful forces in abroad were hell-bent on destroying Donald Trump's political career before it really began. These are the same forces who claim to this day to be the great defenders of democracy. But the truth all along was that they were the real threats to democracy. They wanted to keep power by any means necessary, and they also wanted to send a message to anyone like Donald Trump, anyone like him who comes along. Beware. Ron DeSantis might think about this tonight, because they will come for him too, in some way, shape, or form. I promise you that. Now, why? They're going to do it because there are no repercussions. This is also why Democrats will never let go of January 6th, because that's another pretext for weaponizing the federal government against the people. We all know there's next to no chance that a group of, 500 right-wingers are going to take down the entire U.S. government? And yet we also know that there is a real possibility that in 2024, various government agencies will try to undermine our election process to ensure only the acceptable people get elected. This is why today there's really not a lot of trust in public institutions, and that's really sad. Aside from election interference via fake investigations, look at what the government's done. They've destroyed our energy independence. They've allowed millions of foreigners to come here on phony asylum claims. This isn't a government we have right now because they've embarrassed us. They act embarrassed of us on the world stage. No one's going to cut their funding on Capitol Hill. No one's going to lose their cushy post-government jobs. In fact, they'll probably get promotions in academia and in the media because they did what they did. The establishment always protects and promotes its heroes. The fact is, you're not going to beat the establishment in court. Sorry to report you. But you have to beat them at the polls. If not, we should expect more of the same, a government that acts more like an occupying force, that cavalierly abuses the public trust whenever it senses strong opposition.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.